I can't focus for that long. I don't have the motivation to actually pick the book up. I need some sort of external force to make me read. Too many books and too little time. 5 tips and tricks that I use each and every month to blast through as many books as possible while still loving and enjoying them. Use your library. And I don't just mean because by using the library you support authors every time you take their books out. You support the library and inform your local council that they should keep funding the library because it is actually getting usage. But on top of that, the library gives you a deadline. Whether you go into a physical library, if you are lucky enough to live near one, they will then give you a deadline date. Now you can extend it, but this is a good motivation. Deadline date. Deadline. Must finish book. Book goes back. Other people read book. External motivation. Someone is waiting for you to bring that book back so that they can read it. So you've got to get through it. You need to sit down. You need to allocate the time. You need to prioritize it. It's the same thing with ebooks and audiobooks. You don't get to borrow them indefinitely. You get them for a limited amount of time. If you don't have a library that you can physically get access to, then hopefully you do have the ability to get access to libraries digitally. Then you have all the ebooks and the audiobooks. You don't even have to go anywhere. It'll just appear on your phone. It'll just be there. Motivation. This is what we need, people. This is what we need. Another option is audiobooks. Whether you have big, chunky, noise-cancelling, I can't hear my own voice properly headphones like these ones, or like these. Being able to listen to an audiobook while you do something else is a fantastic way to multitask your time, and also keeps you focused because your brain is too busy doing multiple things at once. They can be great for if you go on a run or a walk. You can use them when you're on the bus, for example. I get travel sick for a lot of different types of travel. So I can't read. I learnt that as a young child, continuously looking down at books and then vomiting in my parents' cars. Audiobooks means that I can still read when I'm on a long journey to go see family, if I'm on the bus to work in the morning when I used to work in an office. Listen to an audiobook and it will add up and you will get through a surprising amount by doing that. It is a fantastic way to squeeze in a little bit of extra reading. If you are doing any housework, headphones in, audiobook. Great way to make it less tedious and also to get through some more reading in a time when you otherwise would not be able to. Mood reading will absolutely save you. Massively, massively, massively. Now, some of you will be mood readers already and will be like, yeah, duh. Some of you will be strict TBR folks, and I'm here to tell you that you can do both. What I do each and every month is I set myself a TBR. Sometimes it's for a prompt for something and I'm like linking that in. Sometimes I'm just setting a random TBR. The key to this bit is that you read from that TBR whichever order you want to read it in. Don't set that you're going to read book A first, then book B, then book C. Read book F, then G, then A. Read it in whatever order you want. And it really helps as well if you have different books on a TBR. So obviously a lot of us are one genre girlies. I am science fiction fantasy, but there are different types of science fiction fantasy. There's more light-hearted ones, there's more in-depth ones. Science fiction, fantasy, things that are technically just like speculative and it's actually more of a contemporary. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this, and if you read multiple genres, it's even easier for you because you have full genre diversions to go for. Make sure that your TBR consists of different things each month. It means that you can hyper-focus on something that you're actually interested in the moment. If you really are struggling, you could just set like, I want one non-fiction, one fantasy, one historical, and then you pick at the moment, at that point in time, which one you read. But being able to decide that at the moment all you want to read is translated books. You've got them on TBR, great, go for it. But then you've read that and you're done. And so you kind of don't really want to do that again because you've done it once now. You've satisfied the itch in the brain. Non-fiction, that's going to take a long time to get through. So then you mix that in with the multi-book one. And you also then squeeze in the horror middle grade. You see? Are you getting what I'm putting down? Because honestly, that is the key to my success. Not too big a TBR, but one that has things from every possible different genre, outlook, age range, Big books can be especially intimidating because how are you supposed to have the desire to read for this long one massive book? I'm sorry, attention deficit who? And so my best tip for long books or difficult books is to buddy read them with a friend, because oh my god, it makes the world of difference. I am currently buddy reading The Earth Transformed by Peter Frankopan with Carrie from Caring for Books as I'm filming this. This is not the book. The book is downstairs. This is just the dust jacket. This is a really difficult book to read. The chapters are really in depth. It's non-fiction. The amount of references in this book is 200 pages. It's so big they didn't include it in the published hardback. Too many. And yet, I really wanted to read it. So, me and Carrie are reading it together. We read one chapter each day, and then we chat about it. Similarly, although with much smaller chapters, me and Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe have been buddy reading various different classics together. The very first one we started with was War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. We read one chapter a day of War and Peace, and we got through it by the end of September, starting in January. Now, is that a long time? Yes, but it's a teeny amount of a huge book. The motivation is there. You have an outside external force. You have a friend that you cannot disappoint. But also it's not too much pressure because they're your friend and you can be like, I ain't reading today, and it's fine. But you have that pressure, you have that force, and especially when it's something more difficult like a classic or like a deep non-fiction book, it means that you can actually discuss what's in it with someone and get more out of the book. I have since come to love classics since reading War and Peace with Olivia, because we were able to talk about it. She has a literature degree. I am a pleb. It was great fun to actually get more out of the book and have that consistent external motivation to keep reading, because you need to talk about it every single day. Here are the views of Olivia of what she thinks about buddy reading with me.
Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and you may know me because I buddy read long classics with Abby, and it's been great to do this because I'm someone who struggles to make time for my big books sometimes. I think a big classic can be really intimidating, but as someone who studied English Lit at uni, one of my favourite things about reading those big challenging classics was having a bit of a discussion along the way and picking apart the pieces and the reasons why things are done and the character development over time. And so reading these big classics in small chunks with Abby has just been great because it makes you feel like you're steadily progressing through a book that's so big in an approachable manner, but it means you also get to have those fun, insightful discussions that help you really dig deeper into a book along the way as well.
And here are Carrie's thoughts about what she thinks of buddy reading with me.
So I'm Carrie from Caring for Books. I have read at least 4 that I remember off the top of my head with Abby, including Pillars of the Earth, The Earth Transformed, the Maria Griffin one, Other Smoke for Words, that's the one, and Iron Widow. I have done buddy reads with a couple of different people. Abby's probably my main buddy read, which is really fun. A little bit interesting with the time difference, but it's fun. And then some other friends. So with my other friends, we do it on Storygraph. That's super fun. It works very well for my friends and I. We aren't bound to, one chapter a day or however many pages. With Abby, we do a chapter a day or a set number of pages a day, depending on the book. Earth Transformed was probably our easiest because we had the same edition of the book. I just had a ribbon. Savvy! The best thing for me, I think, about buddy reads is that it does push me to read certain books sooner. For example, Pillars of the Earth probably wouldn't have gotten to that for another 10 years. I think we can both probably agree that we would be fine without reading it for another 10 years. Hindsight. Honestly, for me, the biggest thing is the discussion that you have. I don't necessarily think when I read, which sounds worse than it is, but it means that I look at different parts of each book differently. Earth Transformed, I think we noticed there was only one chapter where he didn't mention a volcano, and every time it came up, Abby! Know that friend has, and that I see Pillars. You're gonna get through it faster because you have somebody to rant with who knows what you've gone through and who is going to push you and hold you accountable to read those, I think it was 50 pages every day, so that you can push through the book. I don't have ADHD, or at least haven't been diagnosed with it as far as I'm aware. For me, it's just the fun of seeing something different in a book than I would see if I read it on my own because of the interests I know that friend has and that I look for in that book instead. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Back to Abby.
And last but by no means least is reading a lot of books at once. Become a multi-book reader. I used to be the sort of person who could only read one book at a time. It baffled me to think that you would be reading more than one at a time. But that is also when I was a child. As an adult, trying to read as much as I'm wanting to read, I'm not wanting to get bored in the middle of a book that I know I'm enjoying, but I just can't seem to pick it up. Reading multiple books at once is a fantastic way to get through this. One, very simply, you will finish them staggered, so you still get that little boost, that little, oh yeah, I finished a book and I feel like reading more, and you're already in the middle of another one, so you make progress. Two, you don't have to read books of the same size. You can read a small one and a big one. And then another fantastic one for reading multiple books at once is books that have short stories in them, because then you can split them up. It's like splitting a book up by chapter, but it's by story. So, for me at least, it means that I actually have separation for each of the stories in my own mind, which is fantastic for reviewing purposes. But also, it means you just read one. Like, I'm currently reading this with the lovely Celine from Stuff Celine Reads. And because I'm reading it with a friend as well, buddy reading, that means I'm only reading one. I can't blast ahead. So, I read one. If it's crap, like the last one that we read wasn't as good, then it's fine. You only had to read one story that was 30 pages. If it's good, you're motivated because you want to read more, but you can't read more of this because you're reading that tomorrow. And I don't know what Celine's doing. She's probably busy. So instead, I will pick up a different book and I will read that with the motivation I have to keep reading. You see the multi-book joy that can be had. Do it. What I like to do, personally for myself, is I will, if I'm reading a lot of bigger books, so if it's like this size but not short stories, I will segregate it up by tabbing about 50 pages. And I will do that for like 4 books. That's quite a lot of reading, don't get me wrong. But also, what the hell else am I doing on an evening? This is my hobby. I read. Now, would I sit for 2 hours and read one book? Yes, it definitely happens. I definitely get hyper-focused and get stuck in a book, but a lot more often is I lose that focus and then I'm just sat there doing nothing, scrolling on the internet for the rest of the evening. This way, I have different books that keep me on the book path and not on the doom scrolling TikTok and it's really bad for my mental health path. You see, it's fantastic. I've made myself out of breath. But yes, so those are my tips for reading. If you have ADHD or if you simply just don't have a great attention span, join the club, because I feel like this is a great way to continuously have momentum in your reading so that you are constantly moving and moving and moving. And that is really, really helpful for people who lack motivation and lack attention span. So, constantly moving, constantly giving yourself tiny little dopamine, getting external validation, whether that is from a buddy read or if it's from the library saying, hi, can you give us that book back please? You've had it for a month. These are all great ways to get through books. This is how I read a lot. Don't get me wrong, it's not foolproof. It's not foolproof. I had a massive slump this year, partly because I went on holiday and I just didn't, partly because my mental health wasn't great. It is not foolproof, but despite not reading, other than I think 1 or 2 books, I am currently at like 78 books for the year. And that's with me trying to read less. That's with me trying to slow down. I'm just saying, it works, folks. So let me know if you have or will try any of these tips and tricks down in the comments below. I also would love to know if you have any other tips or tricks, because I always need to be able to read more. My brain needs all of the books in here. I also have a massive TBR. Hello, and I need to get through it. So any tips, welcome, please, thank you. If you would like to see the books that I do actually end up reading with these various different tips of mine, and any other random shite I come out with in the future, hit the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching, folks, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye!